have my hands on the Sony RX1R Mark III. We're going to be doing a portrait photo shoot on the streets of Sydney. We're going to see what the pros of this camera are, the cons, what it's capable of, what it's missing. We have a heap to get through, so let's get started. The RX1R III is a full-frame 61 megapixel camera in a small point-and-shoot style body with a fixed 35mm f2 lens. This camera has been really polarizing since its announcement, and I have to agree that the price keeps my expectations really high. And look, while there are some things I think are missing, which we will be taking a look at, this camera is still an exciting addition to come out in 2025 from Sony, and hopefully a sign of things to come because I am a huge fan of compact and point-and-shoot cameras. And then are you able to lean with your elbow like down towards that side? So let's dive into image quality. I've been wanting to do a portrait shoot on the streets of Sydney for the longest time, and what a better time than now with this street photography style camera. Also, huge thank you to Alex for being our model today. As always, I'm going to be sharing 100% crops of the unedited straight out of camera JPEG so you can see the actual quality being produced by this camera, and afterwards my edited version. This camera has a mechanical leaf shutter of up to 1/4000 with some limitations. Wide open at f2, you can only shoot up to 1/2000, and you have to bump your aperture up to f5.6 to reach 1/4000. You can go up to 1/8000th of a second with the electronic shutter in photo mode, but I made use of the mechanical shutter for this entire photo shoot. Did you want to try sitting on that step here as well? Yeah, that's nice. The light is so good here. The RX1R III has a fixed 35mm f2 lens with a 49mm filter thread. 35mm is my favorite to be shooting with, so I felt right at home with this focal length. I was using it with distortion compensation on. This doesn't impact resolution, and I find it is needed as the distortion is really prominent with it off. It's really exciting that they've put Sony's modern autofocus system found in their pro cameras into this compact full frame. You have the range of subject detection modes like human, animal, bird, insect, car, train, airplane, as well as an auto option. You can see in the picture-in-picture it does a good job at staying sticky on the subject, and while it's not performing at exactly the same level as modern Sony cameras, you can feel it's a bit slower. When the lighting conditions are good, it still does a great job at getting critical focus. Yeah, I love, like, if we could do some arm swinging, like a bit of movement. I love that. As soon as the light is a bit trickier or there is more movement in the frame, that's where you start feeling the limitations of autofocus. I think it's being held back by the lens, which seems to be the same as the Mark II, which is quite old now. So for example, in the strong backlit photos or low light photos, I noticed more missed focus. And then I also wanted to get a shot of you standing here. I'm gonna shoot like directly this way because I love, like, the building looks pink, so it's cute. Ooh, that's so nice there. I love that. If I like stop and I'm not shooting for some reason, I'm just waiting for someone to like... Okay, oh, go by. Yeah. I was a bit worried that the lack of IBIS paired with such a high resolution sensor would result in lots of photos ruined with motion blur. The city streets are very shaded, so I was using quite slow shutter speeds like 1/200 while moving around, and for the most part, I actually had a good ratio of sharp images. I did still have a few images with motion blur at 1/200, and especially towards the park photos you'll see soon, where I was at 1/125. This is a full body shot here. Overall, the images this camera produces are very nice and sharp, and I have to say, I can feel the character of this camera while I'm out taking photos. It feels really exciting to use. I think the lens handles the 60 megapixel files just fine. One downside for me in image quality though is, again, during backlit photos. You can start to see hazing and a strong lens flare covering the photo. These were taken without a lens hood, by the way, which is actually not included. You have to purchase it separately. When you zoom in to take a look at the bokeh, it is quite textured and also has a lot of chromatic aberration, which can look distracting. This CA doesn't just pop up in bokeh, but I found it in other parts of the photo when working in bright lighting. I took all these photos with chromatic aberration compensation turned on, by the way. The RX1R III weighs 498 grams. It has a fixed LCD screen, an EVF, which I really enjoyed using, by the way. I think it looks great, and a single UHS-2 SD slot. I would have loved to see a tilt screen to make it a better fit for street photography. I don't think it needs a flip screen since 35mm isn't a focal length you would vlog with, nor does it have IBIS for that anyway. it's a shame that the RX1R II had a tilt screen and they decided to remove it for the Mark III version. There's no built-in flash, but it does have a hot shoe. There are so many small flash options out there now, so I'm fine with this. It also uses FW50 batteries, which I'm not the biggest fan of as they don't have great capacity. It would have been better to see this camera with the FZ100 or even a new battery altogether. Since this is an everyday camera, I personally would be using it while I travel, and I wouldn't want to have to bring 5 spare batteries with me just for my camera to last the entire day. So while this is a 35mm fixed lens, there is a shortcut up here with the C1 button to take a photo at 50 and 70mm instead. So you're not getting an actual zoom lens out of this. What it's doing is basically just cropping the image for you instead. So I'm gonna take one at each of the focal lengths. So here we have 35, and then I'll get a couple of shots at 50mm. And finally, we've got 70mm. So let's get back to the price because, as I mentioned, I do think this camera is missing a few features that really would have made it worth the price it was given, but at the moment it falls a bit short for me. First, and pretty much my main critique of this camera, is really the lens. As far as I understand, this is the same lens as the RX1R Mark II, which is about 10 years old now. While it is nice and sharp, it would have been great to see improvements to the autofocus speed, chromatic aberration, and lens flare. Secondly is the battery. The FW50 just doesn't last long enough. Third is a tilt screen. The amount of times I was out shooting and I wanted to grab the tilt screen was a lot, and I was shooting portraits, not even street photos. Lastly, and this was higher up on my list until I tried out the camera and took a look at the photos, but it's IBIS. If we ignore the price and just look at the camera as is, I think it's extremely exciting that we're getting this new fixed lens full frame from Sony right now, and I can only hope that this is a sign of things to come. It is super fun to shoot with out on location, and it does take gorgeous pictures. So while we're out here shooting, I have the perfect little flash for this camera, this little thing right here. So we're going to be taking some flash photos outside, and then also we'll test out some low light photos as well. Is this camera for me? Personally, no. While I love bringing compact or point-and-shoot cameras with me while I'm traveling, they're always going to be complementing my professional camera that I also bring with me. I thought it'd be interesting to get some low-light photos, so we've come down here to this station, which I love shooting in because it's so vibey, like the colors and the shape of the station. But right now, it looks like I'm gonna have to be about ISO 1000 and a shutter of 1/200 to be able to get some good shots, so we'll be able to see what the noise looks like. We've done so many sitting poses.
Should I do a hand check?
Yeah. The reason I choose to use film cameras on my phone or the Fuji X-Half, which I got recently, is because they all have limitations, which I actually like to help my creative process and help fuel my creativity. A camera like this RX1R is providing almost uncompromised quality in such a small form factor that it could or should be your main camera that you travel with, which is what a lot of people are looking for in a compact full frame. At the same time, Sony has such an extensive range of cameras that it is worth considering one of the biggest competitors to this RX1 that shares the same 61 megapixel sensor, which is the A7CR. You instead would have an interchangeable lens, comparable if not better image quality because you can change the lens, IBIS, and the ability to shoot high quality video, and all for a cheaper price point. One of the main downsides is it just wouldn't be as small and light as the RX1R. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Since it looks like Sony are getting into the compact game again, for me personally, what I would love to see is actually a new RX100 series from Sony. I want that wonderful zoom lens of the RX100 V paired with a 30 megapixel sensor, include the inbuilt ND filter, include the tilt screen, make it a little bigger to fit a better battery, remove the pop-up flash and put a hot shoe instead because again, now we have lots of mini flash options, keep the pop-up viewfinder, and make it work with the Creators app. That would be my personal dream 1-inch sensor point-and-shoot camera. Ooh, that looks so cool. Before we do a low light photo test, I will touch on video today, but I have to say this is a photo first camera. So I've added an ND filter on the front of the camera and I'm gonna get some video shots just walking around Sydney. The RX1R III can film in up to 4K 30p 422 10-bit, however it features no IBIS, which is painfully obvious when you see the sample footage I captured. In 4K 25p, the rolling shutter is 18.4 milliseconds. There is digital stabilization, however your only options are off or active, which does induce a heavy crop. I would have liked to see a standard option available in between as well. As it is now, I would shoot with steady shot off and just stabilize in post to try and minimize the active steady shot cropping. At 35mm, you can't really vlog on this lens. I haven't seen this footage yet, but I'm gonna assume it's mostly my face covering the entire screen. You might only be able to see a little bit there in the background, and I have my arm like fully outstretched, as you can see, but we'll do a couple of vlogging shots anyway, just in case. So I'll just walk down the street while talking. Okay, so this is my vlogging test. We have active steady shot switched off, of course, because with active steady shot on, the crop would be too big, and yeah, we don't need a close-up like that of my face. Again, trying to keep the camera as steady as possible. Let's see what that looks like, and then let me just switch hands over here. I feel like I can go a bit further out with my left hand. Wow, the city's so loud right now. Okay. We'll get some more shots with steady shot on. I also wanted to say that you shouldn't use the video footage to see the real colors of the camera because I am using an ND filter in front. You want to use the photos that we took during the photo shoot because I was using no filter for those. While this might not be the best handheld video camera, the video it outputs is still of high quality, so this could potentially be used as a video camera on sticks for talking heads or even time lapses. I tested out overheating at 4K 25p. I had a heat warning at around 38 minutes and the camera stopped recording at an hour, but only because the battery died, so overall not too bad in my opinion. I then put in another battery and was able to record for an extra 30 minutes until the camera switched off due to heat. I will note that it is winter in Australia right now, so it's about 20 degrees Celsius inside where I tested it. Last but not least, I have a low light test for you where I took a photo at all the ISOs of this camera. I did it once with noise reduction switched off and again with it set to normal. These are the JPEGs straight out of camera that you're looking at 100% crop. I would say this camera handles shooting in low light just fine. For me, up to ISO 4000 is really usable. After that, it's still okay, but you do start losing sharpness and detail. That is all I have for today's review. Let me know what you think in the comments of the camera and which ones were your favorite photos in the comments below. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.